Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to another live demo with Etchr. I will be your host today. My name is Noelia, and I am super excited for this live demo because it is the very first of a new program that Etchr will be officially launching in the coming months. So with me is Jill Gustavis, who I am very excited to announce is Etchr Studio's first ever resident artist. Hi, Jill.
Hi.
Awesome. Um, in case you don't know, the Resident Artist Program invites back some of Etchr Studio's most popular and well received artists to teach on a regular recurring basis. This means that they will teach with several cycles of courses. That means live demo, mini workshop, masterclass, and all that good stuff. And they can truly showcase their knowledge and expertise through the variety of topics they can tackle in each cycle. In this cycle specifically, Jill, would you mind tell us what you will be teaching us?
Sure. Okay, so I am teaching one of my favorite sort of creative processes, and that is using thumbnails to kind of focus my vision for a piece. And this particular demo is how I use them to explore color palettes or moods, themes, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to be exploring three different sets of primary triads and coming out with different ways to mix them to create three different possible kind of color themes that may make the same reference picture look like three different scenes.
Awesome. That is amazing. I'm excited to learn how we can actually do that. But before we proceed, I just want to let you all know that this is a brand new program for Etchr, and we highly value your feedback to improve on this program over time. So if you can kindly fill out the feedback form that I will drop in the chat, we would really appreciate that. And as we move on, keep an eye out for our Facebook group, signing up for our newsletter, and all of our social media. But I won't take up more of our time. Jill, go ahead, get us started. How are we starting today?
Sure. Well, first, I'm going to move to that side of the room because as anyone who's been following knows, I've moved and my studio is now not, my desk is not where I'm working. So I will be right over there.
Awesome. And I will spotlight your workstation so that we can see just that.
Okay. So this is the picture you've seen. So this is the three I kind of did to test this out and give you guys a glimpse at what we're doing. And these are our three color palettes that I will be using. And so I picked three colors that were more vibrant. So I have nickel azel yellow, quinacridone rose, and phthalo blue green shade. And then a muted palette, which is new gamboge, organic vermilion, and indigo. And a warm palette, which is transparent yellow oxide, permanent alizarin crimson, and indanthrone. So I'll just leave it up there. And then we're going to turn a new page and I'll show you how we do this.
And the combos of colors you chose, they're called triads, right? Could you expand a little bit on that?
Sure. So a triad is three paint colors. It don't necessarily need to be primaries, but these are primary triads. So you could make a triad secondary colors. So you could pick an orange, a purple, and a green and make a palette out of that. Um, Working with one primary triad or just three colors in general is a very easy way to keep your colors limited when you're doing a piece in order to focus on, maybe you want to focus on your brushwork or you want to focus on the composition a little bit more instead of fussing with all of the colors in your palette and getting yourself distracted by wanting to use all the colors. So it also creates a sensation of more harmony in your work as well. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah. So what I'm going to do first is create my thumbnails. And I usually just use, I have a gessoed up gift card. And you can use a business card or whatever, or just draw a freehand box. And I'm just tracing this with some pencil. And I know we're going to do three. So just going to do three at once. Oops.
That's a smart way of making the little boxes. I never thought about it.
Yeah, and you can make them in all different sizes. I also have rectangular coasters that are a little bit larger. You could cut out cardboard templates that are, if you wanted to, so this is like an A4 sketchbook. So if you wanted to do 2 5x7 templates, I've done that before. For some of my larger works, I wanted to expand it on the color, see how it all relates. So I'm going to start with the vibrant primary triad, because I feel like this gets you closer to those kind of CMYK colors, which meaning like they're cleaner tones. I'm probably going to be able to achieve most colors mixed together. So I'm just wetting my paints. It's zoomed in more than I normally have it just because these are so small. I'm using just 2 paints that are poured out onto a palette. I'm just wetting each of these little piles. Okay, and I believe the reference photo should have gone out, and it is a photo of, let's see if the light won't completely shine off this. So it's a photo of a garden cart in the field with a small hedgerow of trees and some pine trees behind it. So lots of green.
Yes.
So I did pick, so some of the things you'll see with the primaries here is that they will mix green a little bit differently, and the reds will be used to darken or dampen that color and desaturate it, giving us more earthier green tones. So I'm going to start with, the point of the thumbnails is not to show all the detail. So I am just mixing up. I'm going to be starting with the sky and just working my way down until I get to the parts where more of the subject matter is. So I'm just...
Right. I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Linda is asking, can you mix a vibrant color with a muted color or a warm color, or do the colors all need to be the same?
The way I'm going to be doing the thumbnails is that I'm not sure exactly the question, but this will be one thumbnail. They're all going to be vibrant. Then this is going to be the second thumbnail, all the muted. And then the third thumbnail will be all the warm. You can definitely, like, do these 3 colors or these 3 colors. They are all going to give you different mixes. I have, for one, done paintings in each of these primaries, triads. So that's why I chose these ones.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're not going to be doing anything too detailed, which is why I'm choosing a flat brush, because I really can't get into too much detail without really fussing with it. So, and then, so this one, because it's more vibrant, we're not necessarily going to match the reference photo in any of these. It's more about creating moods and themes. I cannot mix and talk at the same time. I definitely can't do that. End up adding way too much of one or another color. So my pine trees are going to be very gestural, and because I know that this hedgerow is over here, I'm actually just going to fill this in with more green, because you're not going to see the trees that are behind there. And then, because I do, though, some things I will pay attention to in terms of detail is that the top of that grassy area is almost like a light color. So I put a little bit of water there to not have the yellow float all the way up to the tree line. So I'm just putting in the grasses. And I'm just adding some water because I do need to make sure that cart is actually has space. It exists.
It exists. It's not gone somewhere else.
I have gotten so into a background before where I just forgot that I needed to stop painting by a certain point.
What do you do in that case if you accidentally cover up?
You can try and lift it out. It depends really on a lot of factors. It depends on your paper, on your paints. It depends on, how long the paint's been on the paper, because sometimes if it's been on there for too long and then it's just absorbed into the paper, or if you have a very staining pigment, you're not going to be able to get it back up. So either you can, change where you were going to draw it, or, if you're not opposed to venturing outside of watercolor, you could use gouache to put a more opaque layer on top to kind of just finish out. It'll look a little different, but it won't quite be the as translucent. So
Right.
I'm just mixing my part color. And like I said, the actual colors that we're putting down, each time I do these thumbnails, which is more my point, the color combination is going to look different. So these are going to look different than the ones in the photo. So I'm just lifting out that area I'll put in the bar at the end. So I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, and I'm gonna put in the hedgerow there.
And you're not really worried about too much detail in this, are you?
Nope, it's okay if it blends. It's okay if it gets a little fuzzy. You could always go back in, because this is in a timed application. I didn't want to break out the heat dryer and get really extensive with this. You can get as detailed as you'd like with your thumbnails, but that's not always the point. It depends on if you're looking for very subtle variations between two primary triads or color triads in general. You may want to take your time more and really figure out the differences between them, because that's where you're going to find that is in those subtle differences. So if you just like dive in and throw a bunch of paint on the paper, it may look exactly the same and it won't have served you any purpose. Sometimes, though, the easiest way to figure out, which is why I have these primaries, is I've done full paintings with these primaries.
Mm-hmm.
And through doing a full painting, you tend to develop a much more deep understanding of how they interact, how they relate, what you can and can't do with each primary triad, with each color, even just between two colors. Okay, so I'm going to lift out some of this. I do want, like I said, some details I do think are important to save. So keeping space for the wheel and the shift in colors, which is one of the reasons why I like this photo, is because you have a warm and cool shift between the metal, which is kind of bluish, and the wood paneling, which is warmer. So I'm just going to go back and forth now, let that part dry, and work on some of that foreground grass element again.
Okay. And is there a specific reason why you're using a small flat brush for this?
Well, the smallness is because these are very small. If I went up a size, this would I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the portions of this painting that I do want to denote. And then the flat brush, like I was saying at the beginning, I don't want to get into a lot of detail. This kind of prevents me from getting too fiddly. You can also use like a small round brush, but then I might find myself suckered into like lining everything and getting a little carried away. I very frequently will set up to do, thumbnails on something, especially if it's like plein air or something like that. And then I find I've run out of time and I'm still like doing the initial sketch. Like I wanted to do a sketch and painting, and I'm still just on the sketch because it was just so much fun. Okay. Just mixing more, going back to the blues. So I know you guys can't see my palette.
So you're mixing more
Going back to the
blue
cooler tones. Yep.
for the grass still?
For the in the car area, so getting more of the shadow tones for that section. And the reason it takes you sometimes so long to mix, especially in this triad, is because these colors are so concentrated, especially the phthalo, that I take like a little bit and it completely overpowers the mix. And then I have to like remix it with all the colors again. Mix
Right.
it 3 times just to get one mix I like.
So to make the shadow, have you mixed all three or?
Yeah, so actually most of these colors I have put down are in mix of at least two, if not all three. These colors very rarely for me ever hit the page as is, unless I'm doing like a floral where there actually may be a need for those colors. But very rarely am I using the full chroma of any one.
And I guess you just change the ratio of each to obtain the
Right.
different.
Yeah. And so some of the things I do like to try and at least allude to in my thumbnails are the shadows. That value range is what's going to make it, kind of believable. So just adding in enough to help get a sense for the depth in the scene. Now these tend to be kind of like, I tend to work in layers as my own artistic processes. So my thumbnails do tend to be on the lighter side because I've never really mastered the diving in with the color it needs to be at the very end. So I'm going to move on to the next palette. Like I said, you can spend as long as you'd like on it. So this next one is the New Gamboge um, Organic Vermilion Indigo. And I'm going to do the same thing.
Oh, and for this thumbnail, I guess we're going to see a little bit more of how you're mixing just because of where your palette is placed.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And this one is a triad that um, I have used for paintings and have found through that it does get a little stunted in terms of color because all three of these are kind of warm and it tends to not do like super cool very well, which actually in this reference photo may not see too much, but also because the New Gamboge and the Organic Vermilion don't have very deep value ranges, so they
Mm-hmm.
can't get really, really, really dark. Um, the indigo can get them pretty dark, but then it kind of reaches like this flatness of dark of the level, and it'll look kind of like velvety.
Right.
Now I kind of want to lean into that because I use it. I want to lean into that warm tone, so I am mixing more of a like late fall or sorry late summer, early fall, where things get a little bit drier. They get a little bit um, more of that orange. I'm trying to think of the right words. Yellowy ochre sort of look and see the same thing. So we're gonna rub that out. I should just use that. And then going back up to bounce around the page. It also gets to a point where I have very few greens I can make between these two colors because the way the blue and the yellow mix it falls a little flat sometimes.
Mhm.
So you can't go overly. Actually, we'll see it more in the next triad between the transparent yellow oxide and the indanthrone. The greens are very few and far between. All right, so then where the flat brush also comes in handy is when you have a lot of actual like flat edges.
Yes. We have a question about the vibrant colors you used a bit
Sure.
earlier. Are they considered cool colors?
So at least the only one I would say I've heard of not being considered a cool color is you can consider nickel azo yellow to be a warm yellow. If you put it next to, say, something like green gold, it really depends on what it's next to. But yes, the quinacridone rose and phthalo blue are, I would consider them cool colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were mixing your browns and grays for that triad,
Mhm.
how were you doing that?
The brown is all three with an emphasis on the yellow and the red because the blue just kind of makes it so it's not orange. And then the greens, browns and grays.
Mhm.
The gray is with mostly the rose and the phthalo blue to make a purple, and then using the yellow to just knock down the saturation of that purple. So a cool like purpley gray would be a concentration of these, and then a little bit of yellow just to make it not so vibrant.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hmm. So I'm diving into those some of the shadows, getting a nice dark mix.
So
So
you
we'll
added
start.
more of the indigo, I'm assuming?
Yeah, indigo, and then the organic vermilion also does a really good job of um, kind of diluting that, like dampening the saturation.
Hmm. And you can already tell how, even though it's the same image, it looks like they're in a completely different season of the year or time of day.
Yeah, yeah. So I find like yeah, seasons are one of the big reasons I like to switch up, or even yeah, time of day. Um, because some of them make fantastic neutrals, like that's what they're good at. Some of them are better at vibrant colors. It's very hard for me to get really nice neutrals. I mean, you can if you spend forever mixing to the right tone, but going quickly, I do find that I get more beautiful neutrals quicker with these two. So then just going in with the details here. Okay, and we'll move on to the last one. I'm just gonna kind of wipe my palette, make some room so you guys can see it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I know if I zoomed out so you could see everything, you wouldn't be able to see the paper.
I know, right? It's like.
Just a little. All right, so we're doing okay on time. So this one kind of the opposite of um, that first triad. Two of these, I would say the transparent yellow oxide and the indanthrone are warm colors, and then the alizarin crimson is kind of on the cooler side of of pinks and reds. So I have to be really careful. Like greens, I can very easily just turn this into teal. Yep, there it goes. Bring it back.
That sky just looks so different to the other two.
And you see, I've done the same thing on all three, doing like that water line. And then I will put in a little lower than that, the first swipe of my like grass line.
Mm-hmm.
Because that'll cause it to not be like yellow right up against the tree line. Because in the photo there's like so it was the part of the summer where a lot of the like not weeds, they are kind of weeds, but they're really pretty at the same time. Like clover, and they all start putting up their flowers, and it gets like when you look across the yard, there's like a white fuzz to the top of the grass. That's where all
Mm-hmm.
you just see like the flowers the across the distance. So it's trying to express that without, you don't want to go in there and draw, you know, all this that fuzziness. Like you have to you know I'm trying to think of the right word, suggest it in a less time consuming and less kind of noisy way, because if you went in there and did like a dot, you just wouldn't see anything. It would be a little bit useless.
Right. Yeah. We just have a comment in the chat from Janet.
Mm-hmm.
They say, I'm amazed at the mixes and the possibilities of triads. I'm a beginner, so this will help me learn my colors.
Yeah, and one of the big things, like I'm doing three at once so you guys can see the difference, is even just switching out one color. So say you really want to use a particular blue and a particular red, but you're not sure on the yellow, you can just swap out, like do three different mixes with three different yellows. And if you take your time in that instance, because you're only dealing with one different color and you want to make sure you explore that, then you'll see where each color has its pros and its cons. Maybe like Nicolaiso yellow is going to be a lot better for a bright floral because you're going to be able to get those spring greens, versus the these two more muted yellows are better for fall kind of colors because they don't jump out quite so much. They look like
Mm-hmm.
things that are a little tired and are ready to sleep for the winter. You hear one of my cats. I don't know if they're going through. They don't like
No,
not. They don't like not being allowed in the studio. Like it's the warmest room in the house, and it's really cold out.
no, we didn't hear your kitty's lovely
Good,
voice.
good.
But this kind of thumbnailing, right? You could do thumbnails of most anything.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like some of the I can remember if you go through. I usually do share my thumbnails in online, but I've done them. I did them for the big tulip piece I did earlier in the year. I did thumbnails. It was to approach how to layer my paint and a few color mixes. It wasn't necessarily just like what colors I wanted, because I knew I wanted to try and use actually also I did use a split primary palette for one of my daffodils paintings this year. But I'll try out different things to see what I want to do. So I'm not in the middle of the painting and going, oh crap, I have to do a section that has blue and green. and I don't know which blue and green I'm going to use, and I don't want to spend, you don't want to put down the wrong thing, be like, nope, that wasn't it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It prevents me from making hasty mistakes.
Yeah. And I guess it also allows you to find out new things you could do.
Yep, yep. So sometimes that's what I'll do is I'll try and find something for what I'm working on at the moment. And something may not work for that, but I'll be like, well, I want to save this for something else. Like it doesn't work for me right now, but that's still cool.
Yeah, and I could definitely use it in my next painting.
Yeah, yeah. That and it might be sometimes I don't think out more than one painting ahead, depending on like my time that's available and stuff. So I will be like, oh, maybe that will be my next painting.
That's fun. I like that. It allows you to experiment a little bit too.
Yeah. So I've used this palette before. It was for hydrangeas at the end of the year, and it made such a nice like they were faded. They were mostly this ochre color, and it just did such a great job of displaying like the warm crispiness of like the past petals, but there was still a few that had the pink left in them. It was really pretty, and it kind of had that like last of the evening light look to it because it is so muted. But yeah,
Yes. Awesome. So if you haven't, you should check out Jill's Instagram. That's where you'll be able to find the hydrangeas and anything else.
rolling away.
Awesome. So is that it for that last
Yeah,
thumbnail?
yeah. So like all of them, it'll also dry a little lighter because it's watercolor. But you could kind of at this point you could go back in and be like, oh well, this one I got darker. Can I get that darker with this? You go back in between all of them and check it out and see.
Cool. Awesome. So what are you showing us during the mini workshop?
Sure. So we're gonna do kind of explore these a little bit more, and then we're gonna use them to kind of you can even just see the difference between that one. It was way more yellow and green when that one came out.
Yeah.
Um, and then we're going to do a sketch based off of one of the palettes. So this one here was
Awesome.
off of that muted palette.
Mhm.
So you can see, I can't remember if this one came out. It's pretty similar to, oops, to that
Scooch. There
one,
we go.
the long sketchbook. Uh, yeah, so kind of mixing it and trying to get more of those subtle tones. This is where I spend my time getting into the details, making sure I reserve all my highlights, and accentuating all of the values that I found out. Once I know that the colors are correct, then I pay attention to value because I already know that my palette is going to be a good choice.
Right. And I'm guessing since this is a larger painting, you will also go into more detail on how to fully mix all those colors and how
Yeah,
to apply them in different ways.
yep, yep. We'll go into getting neutrals, dampening down on colors, testing them out before you put them on the page. All the good stuff.
Awesome. So it'll be, if you do join, it'll be more of a step-by-step process than just a quick demonstration of all the possibilities you could do with these different triads, or the triads that Jill specifically picked for today. So don't forget to sign up for her mini workshop coming up on November 29th. The link is in the description of this video, but it is also in the chat. Um, Join our Facebook group. If you just search Etchr Studio Fam, you will be able to find it. And let us know in the comments below what you thought about this way of creating thumbnails. We would love to know. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Jill. This was awesome. It was great to see how the different triads created a whole different mood in each little thumbnail. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, no, my pleasure.
And thanks for being our first resident artist. I'm so excited to see you more and more and more working with us. And thank you for everyone who joined today. We really love having you and we enjoy bringing you content. So don't forget to fill out our feedback survey. I will drop it in the chat one more time. And hopefully, we get to see you in Jill's mini workshop. Awesome. Have a great day. Thank you, Jill, and thank you all.
Bye.